He was a central figure in a wide-sweeping state investigation and has already pled guilty to conspiracy in Delaware. Now, wise guy wannabe, bent-finger Lou Monacello, his problems are mounting. Fox 29's Dave Schratweiser and the Inquirer's George Anastasia have more on what's in his future in tonight's Mob Talk.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mob Talk. I'm Dave Schratweiser.
And I'm George Anastasia with the Philadelphia Inquirer.
George, late last week we had an interesting guilty plea in Delaware County from a central figure in a big state investigation. Let us in on it.
The day before Thanksgiving, bent-finger Lou Monacello comes into the courtroom of media and pleads guilty to 2 conspiracy charges coming out of that Delco Nostro investigation. And I think there's more to come, but this is kind of the end of that phase of that investigation.
George, Lou Monacello, a central figure in that big state investigation, the lead defendant, correct?
Yeah, I mean, and according to the investigators, he was George Borghese's point man. George Borghese's the jailed mob consigliere. And Lou was his point man in the Delco Nostro gambling loan sharking operation down there. That's what this was about.
All right, now what did he plead guilty to?
He pled guilty to conspiracy to be part of a criminal enterprise engaged in loan sharking and extortion, and conspiracy to commit obstruction of justice. They had him on a tape coaching an associate on how to lie to a grand jury. Unbeknownst to Lou, the associate was a cooperating witness and was wearing a wire, so he was pretty much nailed in that case.
Now, we were expecting a court case, a trial, and a showdown between Monacello and Frank the Fixer.
Right, that's the associate, Frankie the Fixer the Giacomo. That would have been his debut as a trial witness. He's testified at preliminary hearings, and obviously he's testified in front of grand juries. Would have been his debut as a witness, and he brings a lot of baggage, and his credibility certainly would have been tested had they gone to trial. No trial, they don't test his credibility. I mean, I think what made that case was the tapes. You can't cross-examine the tape. The tapes were what they were.
But they were going to take the gloves off here and go after him pretty good, the defense.
I think that was the strategy, and I don't know if it would have worked. I think at the end of the day, the deal is not that bad. He's got 11 and a half to 23 months in county prison, and he's eligible for work release. He reports on January 5th. So it's not that bad a deal, but he still has other problems pending.
But he gets the holidays off.
Right.
He can work and then go to prison at night? Is that
I think that's the way it works. If you get into a program, you go to work during the day, you report to the prison at night.
And weekends you got to spend in prison.
Yeah. And it's 11 and a half months. You know, he'll probably do most of that 11 and a half on the low end. I don't think he'll do much on the
But he'll work off some good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a program that a couple other guys in that particular case have already been a part of, and some of them are already out after pleading guilty last year. So, yeah, this is part one of, I think, what is an ongoing kind of situation.
All right, now you made some other news this week with some other interesting information about Monacello that's come out in court documents over in Jersey, which he's a little sensitive about.
Yeah, apparently he's not happy about that. He filed for a personal bankruptcy, a Chapter 13, which I think is kind of the equivalent of a Chapter 11. It's a personal reorganization. It's not that you're broke, you're just trying to reorganize your debt. And when you file those papers, you're going to lay out what your financial situation is. And according to those papers, he owes about $600,000 on Gavone's, the bar restaurant he had here at 10th and Wolf, which went bust. He owes about $350,000 on a property down in Ventnor. And, you know, that talks about he drives a Cadillac and he has a pickup truck, those kind of things. It's all kind of in the papers, and it gives you kind of a snapshot of who Lou Monacello is and how he fits into the greater scheme of things financially.
His debt's over $1 million, but his income not so big, according to those documents.
Yeah, I mean, his debt's $1.1 million, and he claims assets of almost $1 million. You know, one bounces off the other. But he claims income of about $1,400 a month from a construction company he is a 50% owner of, AAA general contractors. $1,400 a month is not a lot of money, as anybody knows, to live in today's day and age.
All right, but now he's real sensitive about this information because it's personal, but it's all in public documents filed in a court of law, correct?
Exactly. I mean, he's become a public figure because of this investigation. He puts in bankruptcy papers, those kind of documents. It's public record. It's out there. Who he is somebody of interest to law enforcement, and as a result is of interest to the media.
Now, are state investigators disappointed by that sentence? Are they disappointed about the eventual outcome here?
My sense is they thought that the obstruction of justice charge would have carried more weight. The fact of the matter is it doesn't in terms of what the penalties are. So yeah, I think they were satisfied in that they got a guilty plea and they got that end of the investigation resolved. He still has another case pending in Common Pleas Court in Philadelphia.
All right, George, when this started, it sounded like some of this might end up in federal court, that the feds might adapt this case. What's the status there?
Well, I think some people in the state investigative units believe that still may happen. The pending case involves loan sharking, extortion, and threats against Marty Angelina, the alleged mob underboss. All of that would fit into the broader federal investigation that we're aware of. And it's a question of whether or not the feds are going to adopt that piece of information. State investigators say to me, it fits. If they want it, it's there. Remains to be seen if the feds will take it.
All right, George, we've been criticized for our predictions in the past, but do me a favor, look into your crystal ball and name 3 things you see in Lou Monacello's immediate future.
Sure. One thing's certain. January 5th, he reports to prison. So that's a certainty. That's going to happen. 2, the case in Common Pleas Court in Philadelphia is supposed to go off in January. That's going to happen, or it's going to get adopted by a federal investigation, which would mean the third thing, a federal indictment. Those are the 3 possibilities, I think, that sit out there. 1 certain, 2 shaky.
So the future's a little...
It's a little uncertain. I mean, it really depends on how the rest of this plays out.
Okay. That's it for Mob Talk this week. We'll see you next week.